Hello and welcome back to Threpticon. Today we're going to talk about Gandhi against health vegetarians. Um, Before we get into that, let's talk about Gandhi's vegetarianism, right? For me, it's a part of his entire persona, his idea of nation building, morality, his ideas towards life itself. And as he has a lot of famous quotes. The greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. So once again, a kind of idea for compassion for all life. That if you have power, such as a nation, more than even one person, but entire nations have certain power, and how they should exercise that power is to treat the vulnerable as kindly as possible. So, as Gandhi describes in his autobiography, he was raised vegetarian, but he had a belief that meat eating made you strong and had to do with colonialism, right? Because he saw the British. He said the British have dominated India, and just a few thousand people or whatever, they dominated millions and millions. It must be because of the meat. That's what he thought in his mind. However, he then went to England, right, and he studied law. He became a lawyer, and there uh, he heard about Henry Salt and his book. So I'm going to quote from his autobiography here. I read Salt's book from cover to cover and was very much impressed by it. From the date of reading this book, I claimed to have become a vegetarian by choice. I blessed the day on which I had taken the vow before my mother. And the vow is to maintain vegetarianism even in England. I had all along abstained from meat in the interests of truth and of the vow I had taken, but had wished at the same time that every Indian should be a meat eater, and had looked forward to being one myself freely and openly some day, and to enlisting others in the cause. The choice was now made in favor of vegetarianism, the spread of which henceforward became my mission. So he went from someone who idealized meat eating as a source of strength and power to the exact opposite, someone who became a staunch advocate for the opposite, for vegetarianism. So later in life, he experimented with foods for decades. He was famous, for example, for eating only 5 foods a day, things like that. Eating very simply, fasting as well. Um, I'm particularly interested in his periods of raw foods, and I know why he was attracted to raw foods. You don't have to cook them; they're easier, they're quicker, they're just in any way more simple. So anyway, this is what he describes. In June 1929, at the age of 59, Gandhi launched a public experiment with raw food. For over a month, he eliminated all cooked foods from his diet and reported the results in his newspaper. He ate almonds, grated coconut, green leafy vegetables, raisins, lemons, and honey. He was especially excited by the possibilities of sprouted wheat and gram, which is lentils, right? He offered his readers instructions on how to sprout their own. If wheat or gram is soaked in water for 24 hours, then the water is strained and it is kept in a piece of wet cloth overnight, it sprouts. Before this experiment, Gandhi had cooked his cereals and pulses out of concern that they would be impossible to digest raw. Sprouts allowed him to gain the benefits of grains and beans without worrying about digestion. So here, he discovers sprouting. In his life, he says, "Oh, now I can use sprouting to eat what I couldn't before, or what I had to cook before." Um, and that's a fascinating thing here. Regarding the animal products question, he went back and forth. At times he was drinking milk, at times he wasn't. I mean, he wrote against it. He thought it was immoral to drink milk. And at some point later in life, his doctor convinced him, you must drink milk. And he said, well, I refuse to drink cow's milk, then I'll just drink goat's milk. Um, why he did it, I'm not really sure. Um, and indeed, for Gandhi, vegetarianism was a moral question. All right. So here's his address to the Vegetarian Society, I believe, in 1931. So he came back and he talked about his experience, like what I read with Henry Salt back in the day in the early 1900s when he was there, or the late 1900s when he was there, actually. Um, and he described this. Then vegetarians had a habit of talking of nothing about food and nothing but disease. I felt that is the worst way of getting about the business. I notice also that it is those persons who become vegetarians because they are suffering from some disease or other, that is, from purely the health point of view, it is those persons who largely fall back. I discovered that for remaining staunch to vegetarianism, a man requires a moral basis. So that's a fascinating idea. So was Gandhi right? But people who stop eating meat for health, do you think that health is a poor argument? One person could say, like, for example, what I think is, I mean, if you view it as a diet, oh, I'm on a plant-based diet, I just eat plants, you're going to go off the diet. That's what the diet implies. But if you say, this is my moral duty, right? This is what I do every day because I believe in the sanctity of life. That's a different question. But anyway, let me know what you think below. All right. Thank you for watching. See you next time.